All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another week of Kayfabe with Keaton, Wrestling Revolution Keaton. And we have a great show for you today. Now, Keaton, I got a little bit of a bone to pick with you, young man. So, we talking privately here last week, I had mentioned to you about the Canary Kid and Crusher Crossen, and I said, who would you ever cheer for between the two of us? Because I know you were influenced by both of us. And you actually said you'd cheer for the Canary Kid. Is that correct?
Yep. Well, it would have been different before, but nowadays, the way you've been treating my friend, the Canary Kid, is just out of order, and that's why I want to cheer the Canary Kid.
Listen, it is what it is. I know he's your fan favorite. I know everybody loves him over there in Ireland, but I have to tell it like it is. And that's just the way it is. But just remember this. I influenced you first, Keaton. It was me. So you remember that. But listen, I'm not going to go into that. We'll talk about Canary Kid at the end of the show when we get talking about what's coming up in a week on forward. We'll talk all about that. But we got a great guest in line today, right?
Yeah, none other than the 7-time British champion, Marty Jones.
A real legend. And
legend in wrestling.
yeah, so I'm fascinated. I've never met Marty Jones. I'm really interested to see what he's all about and learn all about him. Really kind of like, to me, I'm in the United States, so, and a lot of us in the U.S. might not be as familiar with Marty Jones, but to me, kind of like almost like the Eddie Sharkey of Europe, really.
Yeah, 100% he is.
Yeah. Yeah, so I can relate. So, let's get our guest in here. We had sorry we're late, guys. We had some connection issues we were dealing with, but we got it worked out, and we're going to bring in Marty Jones all the way from England, and let's get this show on the road, Keaton. So here we go. There we are. Marty Jones from England. Welcome in, sir.
Good evening. Well, it's evening here. Are you in the States?
I'm in the United States, yep.
Yeah, well, that's your problem, not mine.
So, Keaton, I know you got a ton of questions. I'm going to kind of let you cut loose. I'll just bring the comments in as we go, and I'm just looking forward to learning all about Marty here. So
Marty, you obviously started wrestling extremely young. What sparked your interest at such a young age doing professional wrestling?
I've got a bone to pick with you before we start. Like your colleague there, you just said blah, 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 and you said 7 times British champion, 7 times world champion, if you don't mind.
Right, 7-time. Okay, then let's welcome in 7-time world champion Marty Jones.
There we go. The proper introduction. Yes.
Yeah, what started me, Keaton, that's really, I'll get straight to the point. I was getting bullied at school because I wore glasses. And not a lot of people know this. I'm actually blind in one eye due to an accident when I was a young kid. And I was from Failsworth, which is just north of Manchester. And my father and my mother, especially my mother, was very friendly with a famous wrestler called Billy Robinson's mother. My mother was a hairdresser, and Billy Robinson's mother was a hairdresser. And my dad did some work in Billy Robinson's grocery store when he wasn't wrestling. Well, as you know, Billy Robinson was going all over the world and doing his pro wrestling. He was like my mentor, but he never talked about professional wrestling. So at 6 years of age, I started going down to the old Valley House in Failsworth where we lived. And we used to pull around, as they call it, and do amateur wrestling like they do in the Olympics and that. And I just took to it like duck to water. And the rest is history. Billy liked me. It was the same gym, believe it or not, that Johnny Saint from Failsworth, he started going, but Johnny went as a boxer, then started wanting to be a wrestler. But the reason why I started is because I was getting bullied at school and I was losing my temper and sparking these kids out. And I just got taught to learn my temper and took wrestling up as a sport. at the age of 6, 7 years of age. And that's how I came into the business.
It's
Yeah,
fascinating. He brings up Billy Robinson. Now, we know Billy from Minnesota, with Vern Gagne.
Yeah.
So very familiar with Billy Robinson, the man of 1,000 holds. That's incredible that there's that link there. For everybody in the U.S., I know the United States fans here, they definitely know Billy. And so
Well,
that's
he's well known all over the world, or he was well known. He was a
yeah.
great chap, and he was a great family friend as well. And I looked up to him as Billy, Uncle Billy, as always a family. But I'd see him for a couple of months, and he'd be off to Japan, and then he was off to America, and he was off here, there, and everywhere. And I used to start following the matches with Vern Gagne and Terry Funk and all them people, Billy's matches. And he would never, ever. I used to say, Billy, what was that match like with people like? And he said, I just want to stop you. He wouldn't talk about pro wrestling to any of the amateur boys. He kept them totally separate. One was in his eyes. I mean, where we come from, there's a place called Wigan, where the home of the Snake Pit, where it's proper Olympic amateur wrestling. And then he took me there when I was 12-year-old. Well, they had some great, great guys, Bob Robin, Dempsey, and people like that. And old Billy Riley used to teach us. We used to just teach on all set of mats. Then I'd go in competitions. And then I'll tell you one thing about Billy's gym. There is a picture on Facebook where it shows Billy's wrestling team. We couldn't even afford leotards or anything like that, but at one time we had 11 guys, and every one was in the top 3 of the British Championships at amateur wrestling. So that's how good he was and how good of a teacher he was. But as I say, and then one day you'd get somebody like George Gordienko walking through the door. And then you'd get somebody like Vern Gagne or Joseph Mulner, people that was in the pro job. But they were awesome, awesome catch amateur wrestlers, which was an honour to meet them, And then moving on quite a while, I did quite well at the amateur job and going all over the country. But because Billy was connected to like professional wrestling, the amateur, this is my opinion anyway, the amateur, let's say, board of control were very against the Failsworth type of wrestlers because they didn't want to mix Failsworth with professional wrestling. And there's a good friend of mine, he's still alive, believe it or not, a lad called Peter Bill. He won the British Championships. I won the British Championship. Barry Dean won the British Championship. Brian Sellers won the British Championship. This was all in one afternoon. And the next year, it was the year of the Olympics in Munich. I think it was 77. And we all got invited to go down to Lillisham Hall for the Olympic squad. So it was all buzzing that we might be going to the Olympics. Now, I'll put one thing straight. We hadn't a cat and hell's chance in the Olympics. Because, as you know, in America, it's collegiate wrestling. In Mongolia, Russia, it's their national sports in the school. But it would have been nice to be able to go. Anyway, there was 6 weights that could go. And like I said, it'd just been nice to go to Munich. Anyway, out of the 10 guys that there was, the 4 guys from Failsworth weren't invited to go, but the 6 guys from London were. So with that, I just went, it knocked the stuffing out of me, So with that, I decided at 17, 16 and a half, 17, to turn professional. And he asked Billy would he train me, and he said, no, I don't train professional wrestling. You can come to my seminars, my schools that I do, but I'm not teaching you professional wrestling. And to this day, As you know, Billy's not with us anymore. He wouldn't say why, because he wanted to keep them both separate. In his eyes, I think one was straight wrestling and the other one was show wrestling. But when he was at our local hall, Bellevue, Manchester, we used to get tickets, or used to meet us outside and take us in. And that's the only acquaintance that we had with Billy when he was professional. Now, he did take me to a few of the shows, local shows, in his car. So that's why I class him as Uncle Billy Robinson, you know.
Yeah.
But I knew Jack Robinson, his cousin, very, very well. He did amateur, and he was a good pro. And I can tell you some stories about him, but we'll leave that for later.
And when you talk about being trained by the late great legendary trainer Billy Robinson, there's a lot of rumors go about saying obviously he didn't take any nonsense the way most trainers wouldn't. What was a typical training session like training with Billy Robinson? Was it hard? What was it like?
You'd disappear up your own ass. I mean, it was like an old dancing studio. And it wasn't a ring, it was a horsehair mats on the floor.
Yeah.
And we had an old galvanised bath with an hose pipe coming over the top. And we used to train because Billy'd come back from Japan and he'd show us all the training that they'd done in Japan with the Noki and people from Fujinami, Fujiwara, and all that. And he used to crease us, but it made us better what we did. And that's why we was good.
It's funny you
There was
mentioned the
also-
mats on the pad, because that's exactly how Eddie Sharkey did it too. Didn't have a ring. You'd learned on actual wrestling mat pads. It's interesting.
Well, what gets me these day and age, I have a gym, and we've just moved out of one gym to another gym, and I can't believe that they've got a padded ring with ropes and this, that, and the other. And the whinge and moan, oh, that ring's hard. You know, this, that, and the other. But that's just the way it is with today's lot, you know.
Yeah.
And
But
when
I like my stay when I went over to America. I was I forget how many. Let's just say 5-6 years ago, I went over to America. I went with Chris Silvio, and as you know, I trained William Regal, and he took me to the performance center, and Regal introduced me to a few guys that had promotions, and I went and did my seminars and a couple of shows over there, which I had a nice little tour going to America. And before, well, things have changed dramatically in the last couple of months, which we'll get onto later on. I was looking forward to going, and hopefully I still maybe be able to go before my career finishes, just to go back to the places I've been to in my life, like Australia, America, all over Europe. It'd be nice to go back and see them all, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And here's a question, by the way, we got from our viewers. They're tuning in. They got questions coming in. Timothy Cross wants to know, ask Marty about Skull Murphy. How painful was that gator hold?
Yeah.
And were you guys friends outside the ring?
Well, he was from Manchester, where I was from, and obviously, if there was a show down London, 4 hours away, Skull Murphy didn't drive, so I used to pick him up and go down. So I said, yeah, he was a friend. But when I was on with him, you'd cringe a little bit because he was an hard nut. And his dad, Roy Bull Davis, was a hard nut as well. And when he put the gaiter on, let's say for real, it was lights out. It was more like a stranglehold. But, there's so much pressure he could put on. And there's a word like selling it. He'd put it on me for arguing's sake, and I'd put it on as though he was nearly killing me. But really, he wasn't. But if I didn't sell it for him, he'd squeeze it and it'd be lights out, like he would do with me with the power lock and things like that. That's what we call working together. But if there was somebody he didn't like, he'd put the gaiter hold on, and like I say, wallop, that was it, because your windpipe went. But yeah, we were friends in a way, but In fact, Skull's still alive. And I ring him every now and again, or do you want to go for a pint? But when you get our age, things are limited a little bit,
Yeah. It's interesting you bring that up with the move, because it's a lot of those old school moves. That's how they were. You could apply them, and you could, there's two ways to do them. So it's like, and that's how it's just the way the amateur style came into professional wrestling. It's they're those hook moves like that you could, and that's how Billy's training was here in the United States. He could hurt you if he wanted to,
Yeah, Billy was a master at it. But
yeah.
when I first started coming into the business, I had some great wrestlers where, in fact, there's not many guys nowadays that could do a wrestling match, if you know what I mean. Do you want to make it into a show match?
Mm-hmm.
What makes me laugh, and we'll get onto it later on about injuries, wrestlers don't get hurt, or this, that, and the other. Let me ask so-called wrestlers, how did they get in the business? In the old days, you got into the business by being recommended, i.e. by Billy Robinson, or by another wrestler, or you had to go down to a gym, like which I did in Failsworth. And after I stopped going to Failsworth, went to another gym with Jackie Robinson, Billy Robinson's cousin, and we carried the legacy on. And to get into the professional wrestling, you had to be recommended, or you was a family member. They wouldn't just have anybody off the street. Nowadays, anybody can go in a gym, can walk in there, and hey, there's some good ones as well. They don't even look the part, as far as I'm concerned. This is the old school talking now.
Yeah.
And if you took liberties with somebody, the top pros are just. I'll give you a little instance. There used to be a wrestler called Abe Ginsberg, and he was an hard nut. I used to wrestle with his partner in the Black Diamonds. He used to wear a black leather hat, and he was an antique dealer from Manchester. And I was on at Bolton Brighton Stadium one day, and I wrestled. I got introduced to the show before with my Lancashire badge on, dead proud and all this. And then the next show, I went on with a guy I hadn't actually heard of before, but I was on with him. And I put this power lock on, and I put it on. I won the match. I got some good heat with the crowd because I was like local. I went into the dressing rooms. Everybody's congratulating me because I got a good start with knowing Billy Robinson. Everybody gave me respect, Next thing is this guy comes over, Pete Ginsberg, built like a brick shithouse, good wrestler, and he just said to me, if you put that leg lock on again, right, I'll knock you out. And I thought he was laughing. I thought he was having a joke. I said, what's up with you? He knocked me out anyway, just gave me a straight hander on my chest. And when I came round, he said, that's my move. Nobody does my move. What you did, you put the leg lock on and you let the guy get out of it. When I put the leg lock on, that's my finish. Nobody gets out of it. Fair point. I never did it again, especially when he was on the bill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And
so,
when you're talking about an early yeah. And when you're talking about an early mistake that you made, when you were talking about an early mistake that you made there, with the leg lock, what's an early mistake that you made early in your career that you learned from, when you went by, like a couple of years after in your career?
What did I learn?
Yeah, so when you, what's a mistake that you made early in your... Okay, so...
Well, you started watching each other's matches, which nobody does these days. How many times the first move do you see a Tattle and Vault hip toss international? So if there's 5-6 matches, everybody's doing the same shit. That's why they don't get over. Everybody's doing the same arm roll. When I do all my coaching at my gyms, Sorry, my gym. I haven't got a lot of gyms. I've got one. The only way you get over is by doing something different that the crowd haven't seen. Oh, that was good. You know, I've got different views on. I mean, it's changed so much now. And the guys that invest a bit in themselves, like a gown. When Ric Flair and Charlotte Flair comes out of that ring, they've got a gown on that you know's cost £1,000. Nowadays, it's a string vest, a baseball cap like that, and then a lollipop, and that's it. String vest, baseball cap, and a lollipop. That's it. That's it. And then a lot of them would pass as a fluke with the belly buttons they've got. They're that skinny. The top rope's heavier than them.
Yeah, like
I mean,
I've always said.
Some of them are great wrestlers. Do you know what I mean?
No, you're right.
But even the lightweights, Johnny Saint, Steve Gray, Sid Cooper, people like that, they all had some John Cortez. All the lightweights, they all had some definition on them.
Right. But back in your day and back in, when you get to old school, there was a certain weight limit you had to be. If you were under it, you weren't on the card. You weren't even a wrestler. You had to be a certain size. That's all changed now.
Yeah.
And a lot of British wrestlers always talk about how that it isn't the same. American wrestling is is a lot different from British wrestling. It's kind of like a mock to British wrestling. What's your opinion on that? What do you think of American wrestling?
What do I think about American wrestling? Well, I went to Japan and I was honoured to be on the first show where Andre the Giant, as you know, he was the eighth wonder of the world, and he was on the card. And I was like an 18-year-old kid going to Japan, which was an honour. They fly you first class, you're in hotels, you can't do this, you can't do that. You train in the dojos and you wrestle. And if you didn't watch the match the night before, well, it was simple as this. Let's say the baby faces used to go on one bus and the heels, the villains, went on another bus. And because I had the opportunity to wrestle some great guys, I resulted back to my amateur wrestling because that's what they liked. Show shoot wrestling, they used to call it in my day. And I got through quite easy, and I did quite good, and I love that style. I really do. They kick you, you kick them back.
Yep.
You put a shoot move on that you put, and you escape, right?
Yep.
And then I got the opportunity to start tagging with Andre the Giant, and we went all around the circuit with some great names, And I sat back once. I thought, hang on a minute, I've just done in time roughly 45 minutes. In and out, in and out. Andre the Giant's just done 5 minutes. But I knew what my role was. Because Andre the Giant would pack that place out on his own. Marty Jones wouldn't. I got a good hand, a good reception when I finished. But I knew my role then. And it was an honour to wrestle. Now, the other thing was, Andre the Giant. I'm sorry for going on to Andre the Giant, but it was a big part of my life. Andre the Giant used to stop at the Kyo Plaza, the tallest hotel in Japan, with myself. And he'd want to go out at 11 o'clock at night. Well, I was knackered, I want to go to bed. But Andre didn't get on well with a lot of the Americans. And I'll tell you another fact. When Andre the Giant was 17, he started his wrestling in Great Britain at the Wigan Snake Pit. Not a lot of people know that. Because Andre the Giant, as a kid at 17, was tall. He was big, but he also played rugby union for France. He was French, was Andre the Giant. Jean Ferret. So he knew a lot of the British lads over here, but he didn't wrestle here. And he always respected the British lads for looking after him. But going back to Andre, I mean, things like, it's another talk program that we used to go out. How did he get it? The sponsors used to say, come to the night, not the club or whatever. The sponsors used to sponsor him and they'd pay for everything. They'd have to get a minibus. He couldn't get in a taxi. He was that big. And it was an honour to be with him by his side all the time. And then at one time I said, hey, Andre, I'm not being funny. I can't afford to live your lifestyle because I have to pay for everything. And he says, when you come with me, so he went in the office, and I don't mind telling you, I used to go for about 6 weeks and got £3,000. £3,000, that's worth like £10,000 now. You know, because we was there for 6-week tour. Mega money, for me anyway. And I know for a fact that Andre the Giant was on £33,000 a year in them days, because he was on a percentage of the houses. But I said, I can't afford it anymore. I need something to eat and drink. He went into the office the next day and he said, whatever Marty Jones has to eat or drink, put it on my bill. So that was an honour. That was great. But going back to what you were saying about if somebody took a liberty with somebody or somebody tried taking a liberty with you, in our day, you had to be good enough to have a proper fight.
Mm-hmm.
Or give them a receipt for it. Or if you're working with them and they weren't working with you, you know, there's a match that I want all the viewers to watch. And I was on with a guy called Digger Nolan from Australia. It's on YouTube. Just press it. Marty Jones versus Digger Nolan. Diversion a bit. This guy comes over, and I just come back from somewhere, I can't remember. And it's for a place called Rickmansworth TV show. And the promoter came to me and said, this guy's come over, he's on a world tour. And he says, which happened in some days, with you being the champion and we can't get any opponents for you, if he's any good, let him win. I said, what do you mean, let him win? He said, let him win. Why? He said, we can do a return contest. Because there was always a lot of heat between England and Australia with rugby and football and all that, you know. Anyway, we got good heat straight away, England, Australia. I'll tell you guys, this guy was rotten. What I mean, rotten. But I ended up trying to get a match out of him. I was talking to him in the ring, I was doing this, and when he was kicking you, he was really toe-ending you and things like that. So I said to the promoter when I went in, I don't want a rounds match. I just want to go the distance, and I'll go as long as I could. And I think I went about 15 minutes with him. I thought, right, it's time I got out of here. So I threw him across the ring and I told him to run. So he run like a bleeding cart horse. But when he came off the ropes, I drop kicked him, right? And I sparked him out. And I mean sparked him out. Next thing is, I said to the promoter, I couldn't let him take my belt. I couldn't let him have another match. He said, I don't blame you. He said he's just been on a world tour. He's just come back from Mexico. I said, well, I've just come back from there. I didn't see him. Next thing is, he's got a hat with corks on it. He picked it up, got his gown, got his bag, and left. Didn't even take his money. But you watch the dropkick at the end. That's all I'm saying. Against Digger Nolan of Australia. And they were the things that happened to you by good wrestlers. If you weren't working together or whatever, or you're taking liberties with a young kid, you know, they'd go on with you. But there were some great wrestlers in my day. Pete Roberts, Terry Rudge, people like that. That weren't the biggest household names, but it was like a night off to go on with them guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I got a lot of heat. I got a lot of heat with Finlay, and I got a lot of heat with Skull Murphy. I got a lot of heat with Mark Rocco, which, you know, we used to knock shit out of each other, to be honest.
I'll tell you
Yeah.
what, Keaton, I'm going to bring in, we're going to switch screens to the watch along with some footage of Marty here, and we're going to still keep talking, Marty. We're going to talk over the footage. We're just going to have the footage playing, so we'll just keep going with the discussion. But I'm going to bring us to our watch along screen, Keaton, and we're going to start watching some action here.
And while you're bringing it in here, this is courtesy to Arthur Segal, the person who made this. But Marty, when you talk about wrestling with Mark Rocco, and you say that you both didn't take it easy on each other. I loved one of my favourite wrestling matches of all time is you versus Mark Rocco, one of the greatest British wrestling matches of all time. What was it? Like? How did you make that match such a success?
Well, we was both shooting for top spot. We came into business at the same time, and Rocco, you know, he had his erratic ways, and the promoters saw my way and his way, and the promoters are not daft. They try and put each other, oh, he'll have a good match. You heard about the Canary Kid before, when I was listening in.
Yep.
He has a good match with Johnny, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So there you go. And when you get a bit older, you could have a good match with both them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it works. Everybody seems to get paired off somewhere along the line. You mention any wrestler, he's either shit, where he doesn't have a match with anybody, but he's a big monster, you know, or they have the chemistry together. It just happens. And a good promoter would put them two on.
And,
I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
It's like when I went over to Canada and I went with the Hart family. I had good matches with Brett, but I seem to have a better match with Owen Hart. And there's a match on YouTube there. And we have a guy over here on television called Kent Walton. He's like, you'll know him, Mr. Crossen, like Ed Whalen. He was the voice of television.
Yeah.
And this Kent Walton said one afternoon, this is the best match I've ever commentated on. That made me a name because he was on every Saturday. 14, 15 million viewers every Saturday we used to have in the good days. You know.
Is this Kent Walton that said this?
Yeah.
That's such an honour.
Yeah, you watch the match and tell me. And what people don't realise, I was in Calgary and I did my tour, came back, and I was at a place called St George's Hall, Bradford. And I was in a TV match with Owen Hart. And he was coming in that day. And what they did on World of Sport Wrestling, every Saturday it started at 4 o'clock. For the handicapped people, for the people that liked it, people used to rush home, used to get the coupons ready, you know, like the football coupons, so they can check whether they've won £1 million and all that after the wrestling. And the good thing about television, if I was on with Finlay, Rocco, anybody, even you, and then they look at the posters in the town, oh, Marty Jones is on with Rocco. Hey, shall we go and watch it? I saw it on Saturday. It was our shop window. It was advertising for us. But when Owen Hart, I hadn't wrestled him for 2.5 years in Canada, and he flew into Manchester, and Bradford from Manchester, say 40 miles away. Sorry, he was flying into Bradford where we was wrestling, St George's Hall, but the weather was good.
Is that what we're seeing right here, Keaton?
Yeah, One Heart.
Yeah, that's what we just seen on the screen while you're talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So they flew him into Manchester. So British wrestling, they used to do 6 matches, film 6 matches during the week. The first 3 would be on one Saturday, and the next 3 would be on the following Saturday. But if you was number 2 match, you was top of the bill. On number 4 match, you was top of the bill the next week. You'd put a match on before you, then top of the bill. Well, I was top of the bill on the first Saturday, and no Owen Hart. He didn't show. They got a message. He stuck. Sorry?
Oh, sorry, I was just asking. Why is that?
I was just telling you. The weather was that bad in Bradford, fog. They sent him to Manchester, 40 miles away. So we got the promoters got in touch with him. He put his gear on in the car. As soon as we get there, he's still not there for the second match. So the promoter says, right, I'm going to switch you to the fifth match, which should have been top of the bill the week after. Yeah, no problem. Anyway, the fourth match is just about to finish, and Owen Hart walks in with his gear on. He'd put his gear on in the taxi. Shake him by the hand. Nice to see you. How are you doing? My music's playing. And we get in the ring, and I'd like you to watch the match if you can. Marty Jones versus Owen Hart. It's on YouTube.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And Ken Walton said, this is the best match I've ever seen. Well, that made me. And I hadn't seen the guy for 2.5 years. We didn't talk before we went in. We just went in and did a match. And that's why it was so special. Anyway, I've done enough talking. If you want to send some messages or questions from me, you fire away.
Yeah,
Keaton, I
so,
do have one. We got a lot of questions coming in. Let me just get one of these, and I'll cut you loose again. But
Okay.
let's see. Let me try to get one here. All right, so there was one here that I kind of thought would be interesting. Trying to find it here. There's so many that rolled in.
Let's see.
Do you see one in there, Keaton, you want to bring in? That we're going to have to pick them. We're not going to get to them all.
Well, this one seems quite interesting for
I can see some of them.
Timothy? Okay. You had an
yeah.
epic match with Bret Hart in the UK. You won. Bret became a global star. Did you ever consider the WWE?
Truthfully, I was honoured to be in Japan, and Vince McMahon's father was on the tour. And it was at the time when European wrestlers thought that all the American wrestlers, apart from one or two, it was a load of baloney, showmanship. So he asked me, did I want to go to America? And I said, no, thank you. Bit hastily, to be honest. But there was people on that show, if I can remember, there was like, what's it called? They were all good shooters, if you know what I mean. And Nikolai Volkov was on it. Obviously, Andre. God, I wish my mind was blank. There was some good wrestlers on it. He was in the Japan tour. And he said, oh, there you go, you got an offer to come. I said, no, I can't. I was only 18, 19, and I didn't go. But it's different than the American wrestling now. And it's a regret, really, because I did go to Mexico, and I loved that. I went to Canada, I loved that. But it was just the American scene at the time that I didn't think was right for me, because it probably ruined my reputation,
Sure.
Because no matter who I went on with, I just wanted, if the guy wasn't all that good, and you can ask me fellow competitors, no matter who I was on with in the UK or abroad, I wanted the best match, so I'd help these people. I just wanted to hear that crowd applaud,
Yeah.
And that's it.
And here's another question from Matthew Rodriguez. He wants to know, hey guys, and hey Marty, he goes, question, thoughts on your student Ridge Holland, a.k.a. Luke Menzies?
Menzies. Yeah. He's become a very good friend. It's true that my daughter, I was a bit of a rugby coach as well when I grew up a little bit, rugby league. Only for kids and that, because he looked up to me, and the local club wanted me to do some coaching rugby And wrestling and rugby was pretty similar. Anyway, Luke Menzies was a very, very good professional rugby player. He wasn't American football. He was a proper rugby league. And you know the difference, you know. And I get a phone call. Now, my daughter, not being big-headed, she was captain of the Great Britain rugby league team. And she went to the World Cup in Australia. And there's a rugby league player, an Aussie, called Luke Menzies. And I get this phone call. Hello, is that Marty Jones? Yeah, who's speaking? Luke Menzies. So I thought it was my daughter playing a rib. The same name. So when we started the formalities, I looked it up, and yeah, he was from Yorkshire, and he played for Batley. He started his rugby in my hometown of Oldham, and he even went over to Canada playing. He was a good rugby player. So I said, look, by all means, if you want to come down to the gym, I'll give you a tryout, and we'll take it from there. Well, when he came in, this brick shithouse walked in, and I went, oh my God, he looks the part anyway. And he took to it like duck to water. And then after 12 months, if that, William Regal, as you know, was in WWE then, and I took him down to meet him because Regal was doing a one-man show in Manchester. And then I took him to his dressing room, and he said, is it all right if I just have a quiet word with him on his own? I said, yeah, so he asked me to leave. Then I went back in. Luke Menzies went out, and he said, do you recommend him? I said, I recommend him strongly. I said, but you're going to have to, he wants a bit more time. So he said, if you recommend him, we'll take him on. And then the next thing is he got a contract to go out to the Performance Centre in America, and the rest of it's history. He looks the part, he trains hard, he lives out there now with his family, and he's doing very, very well. It's just that whether he gets over or not, it's all down to him, and whether there's a big, big future. Because when you get with the WWE, you can be the best wrestler in the world, you can do this, but if your face doesn't fit or whatever, it's just one of them. If they can use you, they think they can make money with you. But he's doing okay at the moment.
Yeah.
And you know what? And I just want to point out quick, I just seen Marty a little bit back on this video do a drop kick off the top rope. Did you see that, Keaton?
Yeah,
that was not the back drop kick that a lot of people take the back bump with. That was a traditional drop kick, and that looked really good. A lot of people, that's a hard one to do off the top rope. I just had to point that out.
Yeah.
And Luke Menzies, aka Rich Holland, is one of my favourite wrestlers. Obviously, he's done well with the Brawling Brutes and Sheamus. When you heard that he was coming to WWE to America, what was your emotions when you?
What was my what?
Emotions.
Repeat that again.
So Luke Menzies, aka Rich Holland, did very well for himself in WWE. When you heard he was going to America, what was your emotions when you heard that?
Well, obviously I'm very proud for him, and a bit of being in the bonnet for me, but you've got to do it yourself, it's what you take. But like I said, he learned very, very quickly, to be honest. And then he went over there, and obviously they show him stuff. But I know one thing, he went over there, and they must have had 30-odd students, and when they said get in, he jumped in the ring straight away. And then somebody else, Regal would say, or Robbie Brookside say, can we have another one in the ring? He was jumping in all the time, and he was doing some of the stuff that I'd shown him, which was different than everybody else. And that's a firm word that I believe in our job. be different. I said that at the start of the interview. If you're different, and he was, but he trains every day, you know, and he does this and does that, and I just think he's a good role model. That's all. I mean, there's a few people if I want to be big-headed. Saxon Huxley, NXT, he's a good lad. You know, and there's several female wrestlers that I've trained that have been on NXT UK. So my pedigree's quite good. I just wish I was a bit younger and I'd have had the chance to go there myself now rather than the time I refused it with Vince McMahon Senior, you know?
Yeah.
But that's just the way it goes.
Timothy Cross wants to know any memories of giant haystacks.
He ruined about 3 of my cars. Yeah, Haystacks was one of them. He was 45 stone, and he lived in the next town to me. And when I was on shows and he was on shows, I used to pick him up. But like I said, he was a monster. He was different. And that's what we want in our business. You two that sat there could be the crappiest wrestlers going, or you think you are. But if you had 3 heads, you'd get booked every night because you're different. And Haystack was different. But he was an hard man. He'd just give you a clip round the ear hole if you wanted to. With all that force, you know, you could feel it. But deep down, he was a good man. He was a Catholic. He was this, that, and the other. But life was so difficult for Andre the Giant and Giant Haystacks. They can't jump in a shower and have a shower or get in a bath or all that stuff. You know what I mean? People don't realise how hard it was. It's just the way it is. But no, he was one of the... Because he's from Manchester, he was one of us. We had our own little team, you know.
And two of the biggest, as you were talking about there, Giant Haystacks, two of the biggest attractions in all of British wrestling and maybe in all of British television, Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks. I know you tag teamed with Big Daddy and wrestled with Giant Haystacks. What did you get a lot more publicity when you were wrestling with them two big stars?
Well, I was on the verge of making my own publicity because I wasn't that size. And you don't have to be rocket science that they'd put a little kid with Big Daddy. So Haystacks would knock shit out of him, and then all of a sudden Big Daddy'd come and save him. But the thing is, yeah, I tagged with Big Daddy a lot. He was in the next town to me. But what people don't know about Big Daddy, he could wrestle. I mean, straight wrestle. He was a lifeguard on the beach at Blackpool. And then he went bigger and bigger, and he was also... he did his lifeguarding, and he did the weights, and he did this, and he had a gym, and then he gets these big wagon drivers, and because there weren't many big men about in England, so we'd get him into the ring, and I'd be the one that he could scurf them about, he could wrestle, he could do proper amateur wrestling. So it's a myth that he couldn't wrestle proper. He could, but it was his brother that made him into an household name because the kids liked him, and it was like Big Daddy changed his name from Shirley Crabtree, and then we shall not, and he had a tribe of kids behind him. There was an household name.
Yeah. And that's very surprising to hear, because a lot of British wrestlers say that Big Daddy ruined British wrestling instead of popularised it. What's your opinion on that?
Just jealous. Don't forget, in them days, there was 4 or 5 matches. You could have Big Daddy on. Big Daddy sold out, right? 3/4, or even sold out the Royal Albert Hall 3 times. Him and Haystacks. You know, so don't give me... And without all these people that say that, you probably couldn't wrestle themselves. And secondly, without Big Daddy, they wouldn't have got paid. Because Big Daddy put arses on seats. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's the same. It's the
Well,
same thing in modern day wrestling. People complain about Hogan. The only reason some of these wrestlers complain about Hogan is they never got to work with him.
Yeah.
You know.
I worked with Hogan once
Really?
in a tag match. He came to Manchester, and there's a place called Victoria Station. It was a one-off, and we was on. I think I was on with a British guy, and then the promoter said, "We've got to switch it." I said, "Why?" Now, the government over here, it was something to do with politics, where the management had to pay VAT on the ticket sales. But they wanted a British guy on with Hogan, so we did a three-a-side tag match, just so the show could go ahead. I quite enjoyed it. It was all right. But like you say, I mean, you tell me what you think about Dean Malenko.
He's a master, though.
Well, he looks like a solicitor, doesn't he?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
You know what I mean?
in the ring, though, he's great.
Yeah, he'd have me disappearing up my own arse and coming out to the side. Dean Malenko, I love wrestling him.
Yeah.
You know, and you get a lot of wrestlers that just wrestle and they mean nothing. You Eddie Guerrero's and all that lot. They changed the style and it was different. No matter what you say about Triple H and things like that, these guys can wrestle. You know, we have some guys over here that was like, and I'm not going to name them because at my age, at my state of the career, I just don't need any backlash and all these kayfabe bloody people thinking this, that, and the other. We had wrestlers over here that were big stars.
Yeah.
Only because the promoter thought something. We got some. It's like now. I hate death matches. That's what we call them. Where they're hitting each other with fluorescent tubes and ramming each other and stapling money to their head. Especially when girls do it, I cringe.
Now when we're watching it, this is reminds me just like Eddie Sharkey's training with just nothing but mats. Is this training at with Marty Jones? Is that what we're watching, Keaton?
Escort Circle.
Yeah.
Escort Circle Pro Wrestling. Right, Marty? Yeah.
Boy, that's it's going back in time when I see this with the mats, just no ring. That's crazy to see.
Yeah, we do have a ring now, to be honest. You know, because I'm teaching in professional wrestling, aren't I? And a lot of stuff have to come off the ropes and things like that. But some of them, you know, they're ramming them through tables and hitting them over the head with fluorescent tubes and they're cutting themselves up.
Right.
I just don't get it, me, but that's the way I am. I'm old-fashioned.
No, I get it. I hear you. And then do you ever have guys in the school like this that come in that they are all gung-ho and they just can't cut it? And they can't do it?
They soon find out.
Yeah.
But we welcome everybody. And I'll tell you now, I'm proud to say I've got 5, maybe 6 autistic kids that come to my school. And the parents can't believe, because we love wrestling. If you nurture them right and make them feel wanted, before you know it, I've got them on my shows. Now, I run a few shows, and 9 times out of 10, the main event and the undercard are like top British wrestlers or somebody that comes into the country. Only small shows, 100 people, something like that. But all the rest of the shows are all my trainees. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because I found out recently, and you tell me when we're nearly finished, is that I've just been in hospital for a while. And what upsets me more than anything is all these stars that you got on tryouts for through William Regal, or all them that you helped train, and all them that you thought, you know, you could make it with them. They haven't rung me to say, how's your leg doing? How are you doing? See, once they do it, they think they've made it. They don't need you anymore.
Yeah.
But I've got one or two that still come down, so I put them on my shows. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So when you're talking about what's your favorite when you were talking about training there, I just want to wonder what I was just thinking to myself. What's your favorite aspect of training at the Scored Circle?
Make these people fulfill their dreams. Do you want to be a professional wrestler? They'll know if they're any good or not. We get some guys that are past the age and they just come for fitness, or they just want to be in the same room as Marty Jones and all these. We're a family. And if anybody's got any ego, don't take them long to be, rest is history.
Yeah, we were talking about that the other day. Egos, it does exist at some level, but people get smartened up pretty quick after, I'd say, the first year, to that. But when some people are sitting out, sometimes they just I don't know if it's just the pride in their character, but they forget the bigger picture of what we're doing here. They get caught up in their character.
Yeah.
And how did you first get involved? Obviously, you were training with amateur, which you've done very successful in, and then you made it successful in professional. How did you switch from amateur to professional?
Well, it's very similar, but you've got a crowd that it's different moves. Some of the moves that you do in amateur wrestling, shoot moves you can do in the pro game. Obviously, there's the ropes. You throw people to the ropes and put your elbow up and bang, and it's all about telling a story. That's all it is. But it's not easy. I'll tell you that now. And if anybody wants to prove, go on.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go on. I'm listening.
How did you first get involved with joint promotions?
Well, joint promotions at the time, there was 6 promoters, all joined in one, joint promotions. Then there was a team down London, one in Yorkshire, one in it, and there was all under one banner.
Kind of like your own version of the NWA, kind of. Your own little version of it. Yeah.
And one of them would say, right, can I have Marty and Rocco on this date? Or can I have... And then you travel all... You see, what you don't realise as well, in our day, we drove everywhere. Now, the money, my first wage, right, I went to a place called Connor's Quay, and one guy didn't turn up. So they asked me had I got my gear with me, and I had. You always took your gear with you. And I went with Billy's cousin, Jack Robinson, who was on the card. And I went on with a guy called Maurice Hunter that nobody knows or whatever. And I went on, he'd done a bit of amateur, and we got through, and the promoter liked it. So I started giving me bookings, and my first wage was £6, which was like, I don't know, $2-3 in them days.
Not a lot of money back then.
Well, if you see, sometimes, and then I went on the holiday camps, and then I went on here. I was working 10 times a week. At £6, £60 is like better than the average wage. It was hard work, but unfortunately, my wife passed away pretty early when my kids were young, so I had to hold a job, wrestle, take my kids to school, do this, do that, and work everything around it. So that's another aspect of my life. When people say he's had it easy, bollocks. What do you mean had it easy? They don't know what it's all about. It's a way of life, being a wrestler.
And when you were talking there about having to maintain, getting your kids to school.
You're breaking up, Keaton. You're breaking up on us.
You're
Repeat that question.
up, Keaton.
Did it sound any better now?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
So I was just saying there, when you're we're talking there about having to bring your kids to school, have a job in the day, and then wrestle at night. How were you able to maintain and I suppose manage all them things?
Well, I got a job at the meat market where I used to start at 5 o'clock in the morning. I used to finish for 12. So we had family members, and then some good friends who lived there. Kids went to the same school, and you just worked it out. They'd take them to school, or I'd take theirs, and they'd bring them back. And if they had a show, I used to finish at the meat market at 12 o'clock midday. If we had a show like at Birmingham, which is only an hour away, I'd get somebody to pick them up. Then these people would give them the tea, or I'd get back, or we worked it out all right. And I can only say now that's what kept me going, because my kids now, I don't want to sound big-headed, they're better than any kids, because my son's doing very, very well. My daughter's doing really, really well. She's built her own house. She's like I say, she's had a kid. She's living in Australia, and I know that they're in good hands. So it was worthwhile doing, but it wasn't easy at all.
And you mentioned Andre the Giant, and it would be expensive and stuff. And I know that Andre, the stories I've heard, he liked to drink, and he could drink a lot. Was it the when you go out to the clubs with him, would it be the bar tab that would just be like enormous with Andre?
No, what Andre in his contract, when I said earlier that the wrestlers go on the bus to go to a show, or the bullet train, and the opposition, or the Japanese wrestlers, they'd be on a different bus. If you were seen talking to a Japanese wrestler at a show, you got sacked. You kept it kayfabe all the time.
Yeah.
But on the bus, there'd be a plastic dustbin with big cobs of ice in it for the trip. And there'd be some sodas and some Coca-Cola, but there would be some litre bottles of Sapporo beer for Andre. Litre bottles. Right? And he used to get one or two going to the show, and he'd get one bottle with a flip top on, like a metal top, and he'd put one to the other and just flip it off. And he'd take him 5 gulps to finish a litre. Glut, 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 done. Finished. With all this bullshit, him and Murdoch drunk, this, that, and the other, I saw him with my own eyes. He was a wrestler called William Rusker, who was from, he was actually, I'm just covering myself up a bit with this bad leg I've got. He was actually, let's say, from Russia or American or whatever. He won the gold medal at the Olympics for judo, and he also won the open weight at judo. And they had a drink, and I was with Andre the Giant and a few others, where we had a day off, and was in the Keo Plaza Hotel, and he drank 37 litres of beer. Now, the story goes he had 57 litres when he was with Murdoch and a few other guys. But I never saw Andre eat. Never saw him eat. So I don't know how it worked. That was his fuel,
Yeah,
But he was hell of a guy. He was a hell of a guy. He was good to me anyway.
Yeah, he could drink. That's for dang sure.
Yeah.
What's your
Yeah.
favorite? What's your favorite memory of Andre backstage? Like a favorite memory you've had with him backstage?
Well, we didn't on backstage because he kept himself to himself. You know what I mean? It's like when we was at the hotel at night. Come on, Marty, we're going out. Oh no. And in Japan they had all gimmicks, like watches and where's the best place to have a telephone in the hotel? Now this is going back 30 odd years. Where do you think it'd be?
No clue.
Next to the toilet. When you think about it, the phone always rings when you go to the toilet.
Oh, I suppose.
So I'm on the toilet, I'm the dump, and all of a sudden, hey Marty, you want to go for a drink? Yeah, okay. He just wanted company. Then as soon as he walked out of his hotel room, he got mobbed. All kids were still there, 24 hours a day. Then a taxi'd come, one of these big Toyota Crowns. And the funniest night I ever remember, it won't make you laugh, but it made me laugh. We went to see something like The Godfather. And in Japan in them days, they had a button where it was either English, i.e. American, or Mexican, or French. And you press the button and the commentary would come in French, say. So we went to the downtown Tokyo, we gets there, and it's just like a little brick that's not there. Because a lot of people used to get robbed and that, you know what I mean? So Andrew's head filled the brick. And because he's been before, they let him in. I tag along with him. And he went, Marty, come here. So I went over. And have you ever seen them ice cream ladies where they've got like a tray in front of them?
Yeah.
And a strap round the neck.
Mm-hmm.
He took this tray and the strap off the young pretty girl, Japanese girl, and shoved it on me. Then we went over to the snack shop. Then we filled it all with chocolate bars, fruit juices, this, that, and the other. And then they let him in for nothing. And we walked straight into the back where he'd put like a bench at the back for him to sit on to watch the film. And we used to watch this film, eat the chocolate bars, and come out. And things like that. That people would find funny, but I did. When we came out, we'd go to one of these bars. I mean, honestly, I hoped if I could find somebody that could do me an autobiography and write some of the stories of my career, I'd love to do it because they're all true. I remember he took something like size 18 cowboy boots, but by the time the toes went to a peak, they were like size 25s. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And this particular time, he walks out. He's had a few. He never drank sake, but he drunk some this night, and he's wobbling all over the place. And I'm trying to hold him up. I went, it's not going to happen. So we stopped across the road where all the taxis are, and the lights change to the green man. So the red man. He thought he'd changed to the green man. So he slips, takes me down with him, and falls on the floor because he's cobble road with his cowboy boots on. And it'd been raining. The next thing is, how do you get him up?
Yeah.
So we've got 3 or 4 of these taxi drivers. We pull him up. But as he got up, the car that had stopped that was going to run him over, he put his hand on the side of the car to push himself up.
Mm-hmm.
And he tipped this Volkswagen Beetle, which is a small car, onto its side. So I've gone, oh shit. Next thing is, I've climbed in and pulled this really, really gorgeous, and I mean stunning, Japanese girl out. Very, very pretty. Well, she was obviously upset, crying, this, that, and the other. So I said, don't worry about it. Anyway, the next day, the office pulled me in and sacked me for being drunk. I said, I wasn't drunk. I don't drink beer. I was an athlete. Anyway, that's all right. I'm nearly at the end of my 3-month contract, 3-week contract anyway. But what they did, I told them the story, and Andrew found out, and he said he went to the office and he got me reinstated. He told the truth, you know,
Mm-hmm.
or else I was going home because they don't like you being drunk. But I hadn't been drunk because I can't drink that sacky stuff, and I can't. I had the odd pint of beer, but you know. Next thing is, with a magical way they did it, I was very, very honoured to be on the same programme as Muhammad Ali and Inoki. Now, to be fair, people don't believe me, but they had about 12 matches. I think I was the second match on when people were still coming in. But I met Muhammad Ali there, diversing a bit. And then we was on tour with that smelly bastard. Remember him, Antonio, the great Antonio, where Inoki booted him and knocked shit out of him. That's another tale. But going back to the car incident, they got this girl, and Andrews picked the girl up on one arm, and apparently she was a famous female radio broadcaster, actress. And the office paid for a brand new BMW for her. And while she sat on his shoulder, they present her with a full set of keys for a brand new car, which was a good publicity stunt.
Oh, yeah.
You know? All building up to the Andre the Giant versus Inoki thing. So they knew what he was doing. But I nearly cried. Well, I was crying. I was crying my eyes out because they had to go home, you know. Now, listen, this phone of mine's going to go. Just bear with me. I didn't know we'd been on an hour. Right, I'm just going to plug my cell in.
Mm-hmm.
See what happens. I've got 5% left on my battery, but so we'll have to make it quick. Okay, fire away.
What's the most memorable match you've ever had?
When I was on with, I went to Mexico at 18 years of age, and they had a good series with a guy called Pedro Aguayo, who was a fantastic wrestler. And I went on with him, beat him, top of the bill, and then he fled the country to Japan. He was going anyway, but they showed him running out of the stadium, which was all publicity, and they showed him jumping a plane. In other words, he fled the country. Because in Mexico, you either lost the belt and had all your hair shaved off, or your opponent did, you know, had all your hair shaved off. Or if you was a masked man, which was a lot of them, if you lost, they took the mask off.
Mm-hmm.
So I went on with Pedro and I beat him. And they threw a towel over him. So he ran out of the stadium. And then when he's coming back from Japan, they showed him coming off the plane. And the week after, we had a match together at the Arena Mexico. I was top of the bill with him. And I must admit, there was like 6 world championships underneath us. Santos, Mil Mascaras, all the big names in Mexico. But I was top of the bill with this Pedro Aguayo, and we drew 33,000 people. I made it, it made you very emotional, you know what I mean? But that was the biggest payday I've ever had, because I got 10% of the crowd.
Wow.
So, you know, that was the best one.
And if you could go back in time and wrestle absolutely anyone, WWE, TNA, New Japan, even old World of Sport, who would it be?
Whoever they put me on with, I'm not bothered. I mean, obviously, Finlay was a great worker. Rocco was a great worker. I'd like to have gone on with Ric Flair or Randy Orton. I'd like to have gone on with them guys if I could. I've got a respect for Cesario. He's my type of guy. But no, I'd do it all again. Now, if it's all right with you, I don't want. Do you want any more questions?
Yeah, it's okay.
Do you want to ask me any more questions?
No, we'll see. We're coming to the end here. I'll just have one more for you. In the world of professional wrestling, how do you want to be remembered?
How do I want to be remembered?
How do you want to be remembered?
That's hard because as I said before, and I'm going to show you something in a minute. I don't know if you've seen him on the How Do I Want to Be Remembered? The question I was going to say, I'd do it all again regardless, because I meet up with people that I used to go to school with, that were solicitors or policemen and things like that. They've never been out of my town. I've been all around the world and met some fantastic people. It's just the way of life. But unfortunately, I don't know how to switch this camera around. Unfortunately, 3 years ago, I needed an ankle fusion in my ankle. Just wear and tear. And then I had that done, and then I had a full knee replacement. How do you turn this phone round? I've got it here, it's in a brace. Right? Let's see if I can get it. No, I can't. So it'd have to be that way. Can you see a black brace at all?
Yep.
Yeah, a bit of it.
Right? Well, I'm scarred from there to there.
Oh, I think we lost Marty.
Oh,
I think his phone might have died.
Oh,
he was
probably
running.
his phone, yeah.
He's running on the 5%. So maybe he.
100%. He's from such a legend in wrestling as well.
Sorry, I was on the wrong screen. They didn't hear me. No, a fascinating interview, I said, Keaton. If we get Marty back, hopefully, maybe he might pop back in. But I think his phone died because he was down to 5%, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, what'd you have to say? Like, fascinating, huh?
Really fascinating hearing some of the stuff about Andre the Giant as well.
Oh gosh, the stories. And that's what's great about people like Marty Jones. They have just he mentioned, like, if he could ever do an autobiography. I'm surprised he hasn't. I mean, he's got so much to say and so much to tell, talk about. He could have an autobiography, and I bet it would be just the stories, right?
The amount of stories that he would have, and a lot of people would be interested
Oh, for
because of
sure.
the stories about Andre the Giant. He could share all that, and a lot of people would buy that.
He's been all over the world. I mean, I'm surprised he hasn't been in the ring with Flair, but I mean, it sounds like he's been in the ring with everybody else,
Yeah, Hogan.
Hogan, I never knew that. I mean, that was quite interesting. Well, and the timing and everything, I guess we were coming to the end of the show and stuff. I know he wanted some things I think he wanted to show us. He had some title belts and stuff he wanted to show us, and maybe if Marty can take pictures of that, we can show it on the next show just to show what he wanted to show us, so all our viewers can see. When they tune in again next week, we can always double back on that. But man, I was just mesmerized. I was just listening, and
so interesting.
Gosh, and he's a good storyteller. For us in the United States, it's a little hard to get through your guys' accents in Europe.
Yeah, I know.
But I could make out what he was saying. I mean, I could make it out, and to know that he had worked with Billy Robinson, that was, for me, that's fascinating, because Billy was known here as the man of 1,000 holds. He was, he is the British wrestler that if I ever think of a British wrestler, for me, it's Billy Robinson, just because that's who I grew up knowing, right?
Yeah, but Billy Robinson's a legend in wrestling. I know he is as well, surprisingly, but
yeah,
he's a legend.
And Billy was the kind of guy that he could hook with you. They call it hooking. They would hook you, and in training and stuff. And he could. There's nothing you could do to somebody like this, and unless you knew how, and then you could go toe to toe. But a lot of the guys training didn't know any of this. You get big old farm boys or people that wanted to get into wrestling or whatever, and they thought they're even good amateur wrestlers, and they'd be having their hands full with somebody like Billy Robinson. So that was just really fascinating stuff. And we'll talk a little bit more. But before I forget, Keaton, I just wanted to talk about what we got coming up on not only NWF Forward, but the next Wrestling Revolution, Keaton. So our next Forward is going to be Friday with me and the Coward, Canary Kid. I call him the Coward. Yep, he's going to join me, and he's always a handful. He's coming into his own. He calls himself the mean host, and I'm his co-host, so he says, right? But we got a fascinating show coming up with Primo's Premier Pro Wrestling with Daryl Becker. Get an update on their youth training program. I got footage to show. This is going to be great, and I'm really looking forward to getting an update on Daryl. And a little side note, I was talking with a guy by the name of CJ Quinn. He's a one of the guys. I don't know if I believe he came through the training with them, but he is kind of a young up and comer, kind of John's Ricky's age, and we're going to have him on as an interview coming up in February, middle of February, and learn all about him. And he's had matches with Malibu Bobby. That's Daryl Becker's in-ring character, and so I'm going to be it's going to be a great interview, not only with Daryl, but also then coming up with this CJ, which I'm really fascinated to learn about. So
Sounds good.
So that's what we got coming up on Forward. And of course, it is a little bit later on this one, Keaton. Notice the time, 11 p.m. on Ireland time, UK time. So I will be a little bit later. Ricky and I will entertain you as we usually do. And then Daryl will join in as soon as he can at around the bottom of the hour. And we'll then kind of switch gears and have a fascinating interview. So
yeah,
that's the plan. And then the next Kayfabe with Keaton. Tell us all about this one, Keaton.
Well, this is UK pro wrestling legend. He came in a wee bit after Marty Jones, but he faced the likes of Kendo Nagasaki and had some very notable matches around. He's very well respected around UK wrestling as well. He's made appearances in NIPW and now currently wrestles on LDN. He's known for his innovative offense, and he also does kind of styles of lucha libre, strong style, technical wrestling, and mixes them all in these matches, and that's what makes him such a very popular pro wrestler. Because, like Marty said, you have to be different, and that's exactly what Phil Powers does.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at his promo shot up in the upper left there. He looks like he's ready to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, you can see this should be another fascinating interview here next week. And this one will be at our normal time for Keaton next Sunday, right? That's the next show.
Yeah.
And by the way, guys, we were trying to get an interview with that we had some issues with last Monday on the Love of Wrestling.
Oh, yes.
So that's rescheduled, and we figured out the problem, we do believe, and so we should be able to have that coming up yet with Keaton. I don't know if I'll be on that one for sure. If I can make it, I will. Because when they're during the week, Keaton, for me it's tough.
Yeah, well, he's arranged it to 7 o'clock, so he has.
Yeah, so you switched the time.
Not too.
Okay, so you switched the time. You're saying? Okay, yeah. So, like I said, if I can make it, I will definitely be there. And I know you're excited. You're excited for that one. So,
oh, it's going to be good.
Yeah, and it was just great. I mean, just learning all those stories, hearing everything that Marty had to say, and an old school guy like that, I can relate. Because I started out in the old school days. So what he was saying, I've heard that before. I know what he was talking about. I certainly could relate to all that, especially when he started talking about the things of like if somebody's not working with you in the ring, and then you give them receipts or you let them know, because these moves can be done both ways, and yeah, that was a very common thing, believe it or not. When you had situations like that would come up in a match, that's and it's the way people learn. We never talked to him about Andre, but Andre was the kind of guy that, we did talk to him about Andre, but we didn't bring up this, and that is if Andre didn't want you to, if he liked you, you're out, you're good. But if he didn't like you, you were not going to have a good match, and there's nothing you could do. There's nothing you could do with Andre.
Yeah, you were talking about receipts there. In UK that's a big thing, receipts, but in WWE it's banned.
Oh, they banned it? Really?
Yeah, for some reason. But that's the best way of learning. If you can give it, you can take it.
It is. It lets the person know in a way that back in the kayfabe days, the crowd didn't know either way. but it lets the person know in the match that, smarten up. Right? Or you'll get the hint. Let's just say that. So I mean that's pretty good. Oh, look at this. Speaking of the coward, he's here. The Crusher guy's still talking. Yeah, the Crusher guy is still talking. And Keaton, I'm still upset. I inspired you first. So you're gonna cheer for this? Come on. I know he's a big fan, and I know you guys like him over there, but come on, Crusher Crossen, right?
Yeah, well, I agree. You did inspire me a lot. The NWF inspired me a lot, the way it did to other kids. But you have mocked one of the NIPW's very best, the Canary Kid. And when you mock the Canary Kid, you mock NIPW. When you mock NIPW, you mock me, and you've just mocked a whole generation of professional wrestlers. So I would watch my back if I came over to the Lion's Den here, because our fans are ferocious.
Well, you might look at it as mocking. I'm just telling it like it is. And sometimes the truth hurts. And this is what this young kid's understanding.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to learn respect. And like I said, we just that's just the way it goes. But I'm looking forward to next week with Canary, or Friday with Canary. We got some good guests, and are you there, Keaton?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yep. So I hear Darren. I don't know if they're.
I don't know what's going on.
I've brought the phone into Keaton and you're on loudspeaker, and I'm not sure if the fans will be able to hear you.
Can you hear anything?
I can hear him.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear Marty?
We can hear Marty.
I can hear you,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where we was up to is where I've had this surgery.
Yeah.
Right.
And tomorrow morning I go, and if the infection's still there's a serious chance of amputation.
Ooh.
Oh.
So it won't be tomorrow, but I've had 3 new knees, all down to wrestling. So what pisses me off is when people say wrestlers don't get hurt.
Yeah, I understand that. That's true.
So on that note, we'll finish. And I've sent you the pictures here. Can you see them?
I'll just check for it now. No, we can't see it here now.
Right, I've got Kayfabe. Is that your messages, that Kayfabe?
Yeah, that's my messages. I don't know if you'll be able to see it on big screen, but
If you forward it to me, Keaton, I can pull it up.
okay, I'm just forwarding it to you now.
And what I'd like to do is thank the fans for me. We're having technical problems, and if you want to do a part 2 at some time, we'll do it.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay?
Yeah, it's been very fascinating having you on here.
That's
Okay, there's plenty more to
absolutely.
do. Give our regards to Nathan and all the Irish lads over there.
Yeah, I will. Thank you very much for coming on.
And what I want to do is bring some of my students over to what's his place?
NIPW.
Yeah, Nathan's place. And we'll stop over and have a few beers, and I'll do a seminar for 2 days. Put my lads on with your lads, England versus Ireland.
That sounds good. That sounds good.
All right. Say your co-host there. I'm sorry it's happened, but I'll sort it out next time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, mate.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Yes. Fascinating. We heard everything, Keaton. I came through just fine.
Okay, that's good.
I'm glad he called. That's just it. People like me and Marty and us old school guys that Ricky says is 75-year-old and too old. Listen, for me, that he's referring to. We have respect. And that is exactly what Marty Jones has. He was respectful enough to call in and tell you that, technical difficulties. And I heard he talked about a part 2. That would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So, yeah, I'm really glad that he called in. And Ricky, when I come out there, and if I ever call you Keaton and I call you Ricky, you give me an open hand slap. All right. Like, I hate mixing you guys up. But anyways, Canary Kid says, Keaton's a genius, I must say. Never heard a wrong statement out of that kid's mouth. All of a sudden, you're a genius. Remember when he was dissing you not too long ago? Because he didn't like your line of questioning?
That's okay. He has his own opinion. That's fine. But this opinion here says it all. I am a genius, and both geniuses work together, and that's why I'm defending the Canary Kid here. You and you were talking about Marty Jones having respect. You're right.
Mhm.
Marty Jones has a lot of respect, but it does not seem that it's mutual respect. You don't show mutual respect with the Canary Kid.
Yes, I guess we'll just have to disagree. And look, he's got to show me mutual respect. That's the problem. The Canary doesn't do that. He's got a couple comments in here. He says, Canary Kid says regarding Marty Jones, an absolute legend. I loved learning under that man. I've learned a lot from watching his old matches with the likes of Colin. Is it pronounced Johnson?
Joyson,
William Regal, and Owen Hart. Yeah. Yep. I mean, obviously. Guys like that, you can learn so much from, even in today's day and age. Canary's got a point, and I agree, and that's a
finally.
good thing. I won't look. Hey, I tell it like I told you, Keaton. Crusher tells it like it is. You Northern Ireland fans don't always like to hear that, but I do tell it like it is. Now, then we'll get the last comment of Canary, and he says, ain't no way I've just heard Schmucker Crossen compare himself with the British Gold Marty Jones. No, I'm not. We're like on totally different levels. But what we are the same with is respect. It comes from the fact that we know how to show respect. Don't agree with that?
Completely disagree. You're not respect. The words that Marty Jones stated is that he has very good matches with John McCann. The Canary Kid has very good matches with John McCann. He was respecting the Canary Kid. He was respecting you. He was respecting me. You did not respect the Canary Kid. In fact, you've now just got to watch your back if you want to come over here to Northern Ireland when you've got the NFPW fans near you, because you've not just disrespected the Canary Kid, you've disrespected the whole Northern Ireland.
What am I doing, guys? I got Dixie Dave on my case. Now I got Wrestling Revolution Keaton on my case. Canary, look what you have started, Canary Kid. Jesus. I don't know what to do here. I don't know what to do here anymore. But I will say this. It was a fascinating interview with Marty Jones. And I don't even care what Canary Kid says anymore. He says, Marty earned respect and you lost it, Schmucker. Yeah. Okay, Canary. Listen, what's going to happen here is he keeps calling me Schmucker. He's going to pay for that because that's not going to last too much longer. It's Crusher Crossen as far as he's concerned. But no, excellent interview, Keaton. I thought it was just great. We had a great show today, and you keep bringing in all these very interesting people to the show, and I'm looking forward to part 2 with Marty Jones as well. He's got so much to say, And yes, guys, we didn't get to all your questions. We didn't get to all the comments. I apologize for that. But when we got guys like Marty who have a lot to say when they answer their questions and stuff, we really got to let them kind of take the show and talk about it. I'm sure there's a lot of questions you didn't get to, Keaton, even.
Yeah, 100%. There's loads.
Yeah. So it's like, sometimes our guests have so much to say. We've got to let them, get it out. So And by the way, there's another comment here. Caden Smith. He says, hi, Keaton. It's Caden from school. So somebody you know, potentially? Caden?
No clue.
Yeah, that's somebody who knows you. So what were you going to say? Did I cut you off?
No, just saying hello.
Hello? Yeah. So, so yeah, but by the way, we had John McCann on. Did you see that interview?
Yeah, I saw it.
Great stuff. He's really up and coming along pretty well. He's got lots of great matches, and that match that he just had with OTT, that was pretty good stuff, huh?
Very good.
Yeah, and that was that was a great interview. Although John, Canary's big mouth keep running away with the whole show. It was, we didn't get to hear from John too much, but because Keaton's mouth, or I did it again. What is wrong with me? Ricky's mouth is like a duck's rear end in water. It just keeps going, right?
Thank you for comparing me to the Canary Kid. Someone so honest and so respectful. You can call me. You can call the Canary Kid Keaton. You can call me Ricky. We're both very alike.
Oh my gosh. And on that note, folks, we need to wrap this show up because we're getting to the end of the show. And like I said, fascinating. Remember, next Friday will be live 11 p.m. Ireland time. Catch me and the Canary Kid as we have Daryl Becker on with us, and we're going to learn all about that. And remember, CJ Quinn coming up in the middle of February as well. One of their wrestlers over there, kind of John and Ricky's age kind of guy. But by the way, the CJ, the way I found him is I come across one of his promos, really good promo work, and that's what caught my eye. And then I reached out to him. He knew about us, and so he was like, "Yeah, I'll come on. You'd love to." So fascinating to see another young guy getting into the business coming on with us, and that'll be a great discussion. That'll be coming up in February. And I also got to say, Sean Hernandez. In fact, I just heard from Sean. He got me the contact information for CC Carter. He just, in fact, I guess got it when we were on the show. So we will have CC Carter, one of his students as well, coming on, and we're going to learn about him. So another Sean Hernandez student coming up from San Antonio Style Wrestling. So some good stuff coming up on forward here.
Sounds like we've got a lot of good guests upcoming on both shows.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it's really fun. And and like I said, next Sunday we'll be back with another fascinating interview. And I suppose we could put that graphic up one more time so everybody sees what we're going to do next week. British wrestling legend Filthy Phil Powers. So that'll be next week, same time on Sunday with Keaton, Wrestling Revolution Keaton.
And just before we go here, I just want to add for your next forward, you're getting very big guests on, and I know why. Canary Kid's been your co-host, and ever since that, things have just went up.
Now, Keaton, I'm telling you right now, I agree. Canary Kid's good. He is. But remember who the main host is. And it's not the Canary Kid. He always falsely says main host. It's Crusher Crossen. Okay? You gotta start, you know what? Yeah, you and Canary gotta start showing me some respect here. And same with Northern Ireland for that matter. So it's just the way. Wrong. It's just the way it is. All right, Keaton. We will bid you farewell. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Marty Jones today. It was a great show, great discussion, and we had a great time. So for Wrestling Revolution Keaton, I'm Crusher Crossen. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys on our next shows coming up Friday and Sunday.